this is quite a whirlwind for this jury inside this courtroom, Jake. And Paula and Karen, I mean, Keith Davidson is at the center of all of this because he was the attorney ex, I should note, and Stormy Daniels would probably emphasize that had she been on this panel. He no longer works for her. Yes, she is. Anytime she would like to come and speak. He is no longer representing her, but he was the one who was negotiating these agreements on behalf of Karen McDougal with the National Enquirer and David Pecker, but also for Stormy Daniels in contact with Michael Cohen directly.
Yeah, that's why he's such a key witness. I think this is going to pick up a little. I agree. All of these witnesses who have gone on the stand, they are important in their own way, and it probably is fascinating to the jury to hear about pools or the C-SPAN archives or even depositions. But Mr. Davidson's testimony is really going to get to the heart of this case. As we noted, he represented both Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, but he is the one who approached the executives at the Enquirer in 2016 about these alleged affairs, and he was encouraged by Cohen to reveal details of the client's deals. So this is a significant player when it comes to the allegations at the heart of this case, why Stormy Daniels was paid, how she was paid, why it was set up the way it was, why he received the money from Cohen, how it was paid back. This is a very significant witness.
And Judge, I know you've been inside the court every single day that this case has been going on, watching all of these witnesses come forward and testify. I should note Keith Davidson is on the witness stand right now. He is confirming that his work frequently involved NDAs, these non-disclosure agreements. He is the one who drafted, for people who remember, the agreement between Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels where they use those pseudonyms, Peggy Peterson and David Dennison, that we now learn. What do you believe is the significance of having Keith Davidson on the witness stand?
It's a great choice by the people. David Pecker testified for about 3 days last week, and significant portions of his testimony involved Keith Davidson as not only being a lawyer for Stormy Daniels, but a source in this case as well. And he explained under oath, Mr. Pecker, how unusual it was for an attorney to also be a source for the National Enquirer. So what he's going to be doing, and it was just mentioned in the panel discussion, as much corroboration as the people could possibly pull together to what they anticipate Michael Cohen is going to testify to for the jury ahead of time, and do it in a way you just can't have bankers and secretaries day after day. You got to spice it up for the jury a little bit too. And I think that the Keith Davidson testimony will be quite interesting testimony. I'm looking forward to seeing it myself this afternoon. And he's going to be a major piece of this puzzle. And if he holds up, then it's going to put Michael Cohen in a much, much stronger position to be ultimately perceived as credible by the jury.
So Keith Davidson just testified to something pretty important. He says Cohen was working on Trump's behalf when they interacted over Daniels' blog post. So Keith Davidson knew that Cohen was acting on Trump's behalf at that time. I think that's really significant. But back to you.
Why do you think that's significant?
Because it's not just about Michael Cohen, right? This is about Trump. And this is all about Trump, who's the person who's on trial here. And the defense is going to try and make this all about Michael Cohen and almost put Michael Cohen on trial here, and to say that this was all about Michael Cohen and this is what he did and he's a liar and he's been convicted of different crimes. But the more that this is connected to Donald Trump, I think this is what is that's what this trial's about, right? Is connecting all of this to Donald Trump. And so Keith Davidson went to Michael Cohen, who was acting on behalf of Donald Trump, because Stormy Daniels had nothing to negotiate directly with Michael Cohen. She was negotiating with Donald Trump.
In a June 7th, 2016 text, Keith Davidson, the attorney for Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, writes to Dylan Howard, the editor-in-chief of the National Enquirer at that time, "I have a blockbuster Trump story." So that sounds juicy.
We're getting to the heart of the matter. So yeah, it has to be that they've agreed, we're going to work around the attorney-client privilege.
Howard responds, "Talk first thing. I will get you more than anyone," all caps, "for it. You know why."
And this is
so
why
this is Dylan Howard saying,
the right-hand man of David Pecker.
Right-hand man of David Pecker, and they have allegedly agreed to tip Donald Trump off to anyone shopping around stories about him, and also to buy these stories for the sole purpose of burying them. And here we have the editor-in-chief of the National Enquirer responding in this text to Keith Davidson, Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal's attorney, saying, we need to talk about this big story you say you have, Blockbuster Trump story. I'll get you more, meaning more money than anyone for it, meaning than any other publication or TV station or whatever will pay. You know why. The suggestion being, of course, because we agreed to all this because Dylan Howard was at that meeting. Was Dylan Howard at that meeting?
Dylan Howard was the one to go meet with Karen McDougal in person and say that he honestly believed the story,
Right.
and went back to David Pecker.
Now, Davidson explains he reached out concerning their interaction between Karen McDougal and Trump. This is not about Stormy Daniels. This is about Karen McDougal, who has the story about a 10, 11-month relationship with Donald Trump beginning in 2006, ending in 2007. And it's, according to her, a long-term relationship in which she actually develops feelings for him.
Said that she was in love with him in an interview with Anderson Cooper as well. But to Ellie's point, you were raising the idea of the carve-out, right? You do want to preserve the sanctity of the attorney-client relationship. It lives and it's owned by the actual client. The client gets to say whether it's waived or not. But you can, obviously, by virtue of him having immunity, he testified before a grand jury, it's evident that he has immunity, and they're going to carve out some portion to suggest, I want you to tell me about your interactions with those who were not your clients, even though it was in service on behalf of your client, those who were not your client, including Davidson, of course, and others in this testimony. This is so important, again, because you want to get a sense of the motivation here. That's a very critical part of what they have to prove for the prosecution. Not just there was a catch and kill. Fine, those are lawful for other reasons, but that it had to be the motivation and the why that's lingering is important.
June 10th text, Dylan Howard, editor of the National Enquirer, writes to Keith Davidson, who is the lawyer representing Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels. Did he cheat on Melania? June 10th text. Bill Brennan, this doesn't necessarily hurt the defense's cause if the defense is he paid this money or he was involved in trying to help hide the story in any way.
Jake, I think you can do a little better than that. It actually helps the defense's case.
Well, I was going to let you have that.
I mean, there it is right there. First response, he says to Davidson, you know why? And then he writes, not, wow, will this mess up the campaign? Wow, will this, cause a drop in the polls? Did he cheat on his wife? And that's the defense in this case. And if the prosecution can't get over it, it's a not guilty.
Davidson testifies, I don't know if I had a clear understanding at the time, but he says he understood that David Pecker, the publisher of the tabloid Empire, and Donald Trump were friends, and that tabloid Empire, AMI, had endorsed Trump. Jamie.
So I think that's right there speaks to those three words, you know why. The implication is we'll pay more than everybody else. There are other tabloids, other organizations that pay for scandal stories, but it's you know why is because we're a friend of Trump.
I'm sorry, Keith Davidson's first offer to Dylan Howard, how about $1 million now and $75,000 per year for the next 2 years as a fitness correspondent for AMI and your related publications? That is a sweet deal. Keith Davidson asking for that from Dylan Howard. Dylan Howard responds over text, I'll take it to them, but thinking it's more hundreds than millions, meaning we'll give you some money, but you are way out kicking your coverage right there.
Well, and we know that it ended up in a much lower place than that.
$150,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And to your point about ABC, the testimony that we heard earlier in the trial was that it was a spot on Dancing with the Stars, which obviously is
is that what it was?
That was what was
So
referenced.
not ABC News,
in the
ABC
testimony.
Entertainment.
Well, but if ABC Entertainment, in theory, I suppose you could make that kind of a deal. I don't.
So Davidson says he interpreted Dylan Howard's email, his text back to mean I should expect a counteroffer that was substantially less. Very astute interpretation. Yes, hundreds over millions would be less.
Well, in fairness, this is where you start a negotiation, right? Ask high, settle for low.
Davidson, Ellie Honig is with us, testified that when it came to some of the dealings with Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen was working, quote, on Trump's behalf. Has the prosecution effectively already established that Trump was tied to Stormy Daniels?
Well, they're trying to do it with that, and that's a helpful piece of testimony for the prosecutors because a central theme is emerging in the defense here, which is this. Michael Cohen, whatever he was doing, he was off the reservation here. He was acting on his own. He was doing things that he was not running by Donald Trump. He was doing things that Donald Trump did not know about and did not approve. And so it helps if the prosecution gets evidence that, well, I understood Michael Cohen was acting on behalf of Donald Trump. Now watch what happens on cross, though. The cross is going to be, how'd you know that? How'd you know Michael Cohen was acting on behalf of Donald Trump? And I'll bet you the answer is because Michael Cohen said I was acting on behalf of Donald Trump, which sort of undermines a little bit of that claim that it was Trump himself. But this is going to be a theme that we've seen already. We'll see throughout the trial. Was Cohen acting for Donald Trump, or was Cohen acting on his own as a sort of free agent?